Good afternoon. I'm Danielle Schenk in the 1011 Now streaming studio with your weekly consumer safety spotlight. Joining me now is Josh Planos with the Better Business Bureau. How's it going today?
It's going great, Danielle. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, shopping season in full swing. Today, we're talking about a TikTok shopping scam where a Nebraskan lost around $100. So, Josh, can you kind of explain this case?
Yeah, so this was reported to us in the last week, but I believe the experience happened in late October, where the victim saw an ad on TikTok that was featuring a woman who's promoting clothing that the victim, wanted to have themselves. So they purchased 12 of these shirts, total from what was called Mayarin.com, and they received a tracking number and assumed that the clothing was in transit. The clothing never arrives. Turns out Mayarin.com is a scam. And this was further confirmed by the victim noticing that Mayarin.com showed up as a fraudulent website on their antivirus software. So this person ultimately lost about $100 to a company, but what they really lost was trust that had been gained by seeing an ad, right? And we see this time and time again, where you see an ad, it looks like it fits the bill. You just assume that the company in question is legitimate. Maybe you don't do double checking, or assume anything is amiss, and then suddenly you're out that money and potentially out the personal information that is associated with that transaction as well. So I know that the holidays are prime time for purchasing products from new companies, and much as we'd like to think that everything's going to go according to plan, sometimes the company isn't even a company in question.
Right. And so this just an ad that had popped up on TikTok, or was it related to TikTok Shop? Because I know that they can kind of be two different things.
Yeah, I believe that this was just an ad that natively showed up on their device. I believe that they did do a little bit of searching for this company on TikTok Shop. I did not, confirm prior to the segment to see if it's still live, but they did find that company in question on that provider.
And so how common is this to have an ad like that pop up on TikTok or either other social media based shopping
Very,
locations?
very. If you're a scammer, I mean, that is the way to scale the effort, right? If you don't want to go by person, you simply cut a check to the platform, and you get that product advertised or that company advertised on the platform. And for a lot of consumers, there's an assumption that that has somehow been approved by the powers that be at TikTok or the powers that be at Meta. And in reality, this is just an ad, right? And we kind of assume that a lot of advertising is real, when maybe some of it is, but maybe some of it isn't. And especially when you're using such a new platform like a TikTok shop, there are a lot of guardrails that are being created in real time. And many consumers, unfortunately, find themselves in the crosshairs when those are erected, and they are just the unfortunate person who happened to transact with that company that wasn't a company at all.
And so scammers can even make their ads look pretty legitimate, including some influencers, models, and pictures, things like that.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you're at least verifying who the influencer or creator is, right? I know it's common nowadays to purchase products from people that you know and you trust and you follow online, but just because somebody looks professional in a video doesn't mean that they're trustworthy or capable of running a business or capable of vouching for a business. So, one thing you can do is check to see if the account is verified. You can look at their follower count. You can look at their engagement. You can see if they've promoted other questionable products in the past. Again, all of this requires an additional layer of research, an additional layer of work. And many folks don't sign up for that. But it really is important when you're dealing with a new business or a business that's providing a product that you haven't seen before. You just want to make sure that there's at least some an understanding of what that product is and how it can actually get to your front door.
Now, does TikTok, if you know this, does TikTok have any responsibility for kind of vetting out these advertisers or like these videos that pop up, or are buyers basically on their own?
Well, they do operate a bit in the gray area, just like a Facebook marketplace would operate in the gray area. They certainly try to weed out the bad actors and get them off their platform as soon as possible. And they certainly do want to do everything they can to connect that user with the money that is lost in the transaction. But ultimately, TikTok isn't liable to provide that compensation back to the user. It really does fall on the user in question to ensure that they're doing everything possible to have that transaction be secure. So TikTok Shop has a customer service division. TikTok has its own customer service division. They want to know that someone out there is using their platform for nefarious means, but it really does fall on the consumer to, I mean, hopefully you've used a credit card, you can dispute that charge, but it is a long, painful, drawn out process that sadly doesn't always end with a positive resolution.
Now, if someone realizes that they might have bought from a possible scam on the site, what should they do?
So certainly TikTok in this case wants to know that their platform is being used improperly, right? So TikTok's got its own customer service line. You want to at least report through their intake valve. It's likely an email or a phone number that is listed. The BBB, we want to know about it as well. So bbb.org/scam tracker is our intake form. You don't need to have lost any amount of money for your story to matter or for your story to be reportable. And one thing I would caution is the intake form will keep you anonymous. If you want to be anonymous, you will be kept anonymous. So don't feel like you're going to be tied to this report for the rest of your life, because it's simply not the case. But certainly you want to report to the impacted party if it involved, let's say, a debit card at your local bank. It's probably best practice to certainly report to that bank and let them know that the transaction was fraudulent in nature and that there might be some suspicious charges to look out for. But this is at bare minimum for this user an opportunity for them to more consistently check in with their financial statements, because typically the scam isn't just in the moment I lost $100. It's, well, now these suspicious charges seem to be popping up on my credit card that I used for that transaction. And lo and behold, those things are tied together.
And so, can you kind of give us some tips about shopping online safely around the holidays? A lot's been going on. Cyber Monday was just recently.
Yeah. One thing I would say is, if at all possible, don't buy directly from ads. When you see products that are advertised, whether it be on TikTok or YouTube TV, Facebook, resist the urge to click through immediately. Instead, you should probably independently verify that company through Google. BBB.org is a really good place to do that. You can verify that that company is legitimate before making any purchase. 9 times out of 10, the offer still stands if you go to the URL directly versus clicking through from the ad. So don't feel like you're losing out on that offer. You just need to verify, and it's just an additional step to take, but just going to the name of that retailer and their official channel is a really good place to do that. Make sure you're researching the seller thoroughly. I know it's so common nowadays for us to purchase products from new companies that seemingly originated overnight. And many of those companies are fantastic options, but there are some bad actors in there. And anytime you've got a lack of information or you've got a new business, that should raise some concerns, especially now if it's December 8th, right? And you're trying to make these transactions under the gun to get them delivered in time for the holiday season. You want to make sure you're working with a reputable company that's got experience in this space during this season. Make sure you're also reading reviews outside of the platform in question. So just because you see, some positive comments on a TikTok video doesn't necessarily mean that they've got a built-in online presence elsewhere, right? You want to search for independent reviews. BBB is a good place for that too. Get a more complete picture of other customers' experiences, not just experiences on a single platform that frankly doesn't have a strong track record of delivering products to people in a timely manner.
Right. And so, TikTok Shop's kind of preying on those who have impulsive tendencies here with some of these ads, or just like this person might have lost out on. So just another reminder that, if you're going to shop on TikTok, that might be a risk that you're taking if you're going to get scammed, or you need to take the proper steps to verify this information or just avoid shopping on TikTok.
Without a doubt. And I think that for some, maybe just a small test order is an easier strategy to take, right? I mean, I don't know many of us who would sign up for an enormous amount of money associated with a transaction on a platform we've never heard of or dealt with in the past. So, this person just tried to purchase 12 shirts, right? I mean, they weren't trying to, buy a home or get a car loan, but at the same time, you can go smaller than $100, right? And $100 means different things to different people. But if you do decide to ultimately try out a new TikTok shop or seller, you could try just ordering one inexpensive item first rather than placing a large order, a bulk order. And that way you can at least test the legitimacy without risking significant amounts of money.
Yeah, good tip there. And BBB, you can report scams there and look up scams as well. So if you've are questioning a business or something that you might have seen on TikTok, you can search it there as well and see if anything pops up, correct?
Absolutely. And in this situation, Danielle, we've got mayarin.com, right? That is the name associated with this scam. I promise you, if someone is on the fence about going through with a transaction for mayarin.com, they look up mayarin.com, they see it's associated with a scam, they are likely to walk away from that experience. That in and of itself is incredibly useful information for consumers who might just be looking for, a nudge in the right direction at the point of no return, right? So I hope that people take it upon themselves to report their experiences because it does matter. People are brought to justice very regularly for fraudulent related crimes, but even those who aren't, right? You've got a name associated with a scam. At least protect the public from needing to go through with that by just simply bringing that report to light.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, Josh, is there anything else that you want to talk about when it comes to online shopping here these holidays? Any tips or anything about the case?
Well, I would say that December 8th is a really late time to be purchasing products online for the holidays. I would have I would know going into that transaction what the projected timeline looks like, so you're not stuck there, as we get closer to the end of the month, waiting on a gift that's not going to arrive for a few weeks. So really key in on some of those projected timelines and be good to those who are delivering your packages. It's a really hard time right now to be delivering packages. There's a lot of stress that's associated with being a small business owner or a courier service. So be respectful, be caring, and be realistic about the expectations for your transactions as we get closer to the holiday season.
All right. Thank you, Josh, as always, for joining us here today.
Thank you, Danielle.
Now, stay tuned to our website, follow us on all our social platforms, and make sure to download our app on Roku for the latest news of the day. From our newsroom to wherever you are, we'll see you on the next stream.
1011 News is everywhere. Download our smart TV apps and follow us on social media at 1011 News.